Discover how my daughter's incredible act changed everything. She gave away our family beach home." Mike stood at the edge of the dock, the salty breeze tugging at his worn work shirt, and it hit him with an unsettling force. His little girl was growing up. He wiped his hands on his cargo shorts, contemplating the weight of the world resting on his shoulders. At 45, the years of hard labor as a dock worker in this small coastal town in New Jersey had started to fray the edges of his pride. With each paycheck, the memory of laughter and bright summer days at their family beach house became dimmer, overshadowed by bills and growing debt. That beach house, a cherished haven, was more than just a building. It was the heart of his family. Every summer, they'd fire up the grill and watch the sun sink into the ocean while the sound of waves lapped at the shore. Those moments were pure magic. Now, Mike felt the grip of financial hardship squeezing tighter, threatening to rip their family apart. But asking for help? That was above all. He was a hard worker, and he'd be damned if he let anyone know just how close to the edge they were. He kept pushing deeper into work, gritting his teeth against struggles, as Emily, his bright-eyed daughter, watched with concern. Emily, just 16, was no fool. A perceptive kid, she felt the tension thick in the air like a storm brewing. One evening, as she browsed social media, she stumbled upon a local veteran family facing eviction. Their plight tugged at her heartstrings, igniting something deep within her. Home meant everything, and her family's beach house symbolized not just the past, but a future filled with hope and resilience. What if she could share that sanctuary with those who had sacrificed so much? Visioning countless memories newly refracted through the struggles of the veterans, she devised a plan to donate their beloved beach house, preserving its spirit while honoring those in need. But the moment Mike learned of Emily's intentions, it was as if the sky had fallen. One word reverberated in his chest: betrayal. He felt his world tilt, his pride battling fiercely with Emily's vision. "How could you do this?" he roared, fists clenched and heart in his throat. Through the cracking tension in their voices, he struggled to see her act of love, while Emily's tears reflected a sense of unshakable conviction. "Dad, I understand what home means. Don't you see? We still have the memories," she pleaded, her voice steady but breaking softly. The community that once thrived on neighborly kindness now felt distant, but Emily was determined to rally it around them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The weeks dragged on, conversations sparking into arguments as Mike grappled with the idea that losing the beach house didn't have to mean losing their family. Emily's perseverance began to touch the heart hardened by worry, but the battle was far from over. As summer's warm lights flickered in the dusk, illuminating their family home, Mike stood hesitantly at the threshold, torn between the safety of his pride and the love emanating from his daughter. Would he allow fear to dictate their fate, or would he look beyond the past to grasp a future reshaped by hope and kindness? The air hung thick with unresolved tension, the choice between love and pride echoing louder than the crashing waves. What would he do next? Mike stared out at the waves crashing against the pilings of the dock, his heart racing. The salty air filled his lungs. He could almost taste the memories peppered in the breeze. But those memories felt heavy now, like weights pulling him down. Emily's words echoed endlessly in his mind. "We still have the memories," she'd said. But what was a memory without a place to hold it? Days turned into weeks, and Mike found it harder to shake off the growing unease. He breathed deeply, wrestling with the tightness in his chest, and sank into the familiar sounds of the dock, fishermen chatting, seagulls squawking. But even that comfort was waning. Each night he watched Emily, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor with her laptop, eyes bright with determination. She was reaching out to the community, sharing her vision, asking for support. "Dad, please," she urged once again, her face earnest as they sat together at the kitchen table. "You have to understand, this is about something bigger than us. It's about giving back." Mike rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on him. The beach house had been a symbol of everything right in his life, a retreat from the daily grind and the troubles that gnawed at him. Could he really let it go? Finally, he lost it. "You're just a kid. What do you know about sacrifice?" The words came out sharper than he intended. Emily flinched but steadied herself, her voice unwavering. "And what do you know about losing something so others can have a chance? I know what's happening out there, Dad. This is our opportunity to help. Don't you want to make a difference?" Her words hung in the air. He looked at her, really looked. His little girl wasn't so little anymore. She understood the world more than he did, and the thought tugged at him. "Do you really think giving away our home will help them?" he asked, his voice quieter now, as though he were sharing a secret. "Yes," she exclaimed, eyes lighting up with hope. "We could change lives, honor those who fought for ours. This place has been our joy, and it could spread joy to others. Think of all the laughter that filled it. We can share that." The thought struck him with a jolt. Was it possible? Days later, Mike was restless at work. Each hour passed slowly, each tick of the clock a reminder of the decision looming over him. He found his mind drifting away from the crates he was hauling, flipping back and forth between doom-laden fears of losing their past and the bright, inviting possibility of forging a future rooted in kindness. That weekend, he stood at the edge of their beach house where the sand met the waves. Instead of memories flooding him like before, he envisioned Emily laughing, hidden treasures buried in the sand, long days spent under the sun, and the warmth of family gatherings. He felt the pull of her passion filling the hollow spaces in his heart. What if he could reframe the narrative? What if letting go could allow them to grasp something even greater? Mike took a deep breath, filled with a new resolve. Maybe it was time to take that leap. He walked back into the house, searching for Emily, but the living room was empty. Suddenly, he heard her voice in the backyard. Emily stood surrounded by a small group of friends, gesturing animatedly about fundraisers and community events, their faces glowing under the late afternoon sun. A spark surged through him, igniting a sense of purpose. "Wait," he called out, heart racing. The group turned, surprised by the urgency in his voice. The moment of truth had arrived. Would he take the plunge? As excitement mingled with apprehension, he prepared to share his decision, his heart pounding. What awaited them on this path? Would it lead to newfound joy or deeper regrets? Each choice hung precariously above the threshold of change, dancing like the waves at their doorstep. What would tomorrow bring? Mike took a step forward, feeling the warmth of the sun on his back. Emily's friends looked at him expectantly, their laughter fading into silence. He could see the hope in Emily's eyes. It was like a flickering candle, waiting for a breath to either extinguish it or make it blaze brighter. "All right, everyone," he said, clearing his throat. "I've been thinking a lot about what Emily has proposed." The words caught in his throat, but he pressed on, trying to match her enthusiasm. "And I think we can actually do this." The emotional weight lifted slightly. Emily's expression lit up, her whole face radiating joy. "Really, Dad? You mean it?" He nodded, though doubt still lingered in his mind. This decision could reshape everything. "Yes, let's take the next step. Let's give this place new purpose." As his words took shape, he could see Emily bounce with excitement. But there was also a tingle of fear in him, the fear of the unknown. "All right," one of her friends cheered, and soon the group erupted with cheers. They launched into plans about how they could host events, fundraisers, and community gatherings. Mike felt the energy shift around him, turning from a heaviness that had anchored his heart to an exhilarating sense of possibility. That week, Mike immersed himself in their plans. Emily and her friends involved him more than he expected. They brainstormed ideas for events they could hold at the beach house: a family fun day, a charity auction, beach cleanups, and even weekend cookouts. Each new idea made Mike's heart swell with a blend of pride and anxiety. He watched as Emily stepped into a leadership role. She coordinated everything with a bouncing confidence that reminded him of when she was younger, when they would build sandcastles together. That same fierce determination shone in her eyes now, and it made him realize how much power lay in her words. Then the day of the first event arrived. Mike stood at the doorway of the beach house, the sun shining brighter than he had seen in weeks. The front yard was decorated with colorful banners. Laughter and chatter filled the air as families began to trickle in. It was a whirlwind of activity. Emily was everywhere, guiding guests and smiling like the sun itself. Watching her, he felt something shift inside him. The house felt alive in a new way. The very walls seemed to echo with laughter and joy. He joined in, helping with the food stations and games, feeling the warmth of the community around him. When it was time to gather everyone for a group picture, Emily ran to his side. "Can you believe this? Look at all these smiles." Her voice was filled with pure joy, and for the first time in a long time, Mike felt a sense of belonging wash over him. But just as he was about to revel in this happiness, a familiar tug of sadness snaked around his heart. The loss of their beach house still felt heavy, like an old wound that hadn't quite healed. After the event wrapped up, as twilight settled over the beach, Mike found himself standing alone at the water's edge. The waves lapped at his feet, and he closed his eyes, remembering all the summer spent watching Emily grow up here. He had taken the leap. He had chosen hope over fear. But could he truly continue to embrace this new journey without looking back at all he was leaving behind? As night blanketed the beach, he felt a whisper of uncertainty gnawing at his insides. "Are we really going to be okay?" he murmured to himself, the waves crashing like a distant echo of doubt. What would tomorrow bring? Would they find a way to fill the void, or would the shadows of the past come creeping back? The night felt pregnant with questions, leaving Mike wondering if the memories would stay behind or flow back like a relentless tide. Mike woke up the next morning to a gentle breeze wafting through the open window. The salty scent of the ocean prickled his senses. He took a deep breath, feeling the remnants of yesterday's joy still lingering in the air like warm sunlight. Yet, beneath it all, the familiar pang of nostalgia sat uneasily in his chest, tugging him back to thoughts of what once was. He glanced at Emily, still deep in sleep, her face serene. Watching her, he felt an overwhelming surge of love. She had embraced the beach house as a treasure, just as he once did. Memories of sandcastles and sunsets flared in his mind. This new purpose, this new life, seemed to dance just out of reach, a tantalizing dream dangling in the early morning light. As the sun climbed higher, Mike forced himself to rise, the weight of uncertainty chasing away the lingering warmth of optimism. Downstairs, the casual chaos of the beach house awaited him. Laughter echoed from the backyard, where Emily and her friends were already setting up for a pancake breakfast. They were bubbling with excitement, their energy infectious. "Dad, come help us," Emily called, her hair bouncing as she dashed toward him, overflowing with eagerness. "We need to make sure everything is perfect for our next event." Her joy was a potent reminder of why they were doing this, and Mike felt a flicker of determination surge through him. Okay, what's the plan? As they worked together, flipping pancakes and stirring syrup, he saw how Emily's vision had taken root. Families began to gather, their chatter creating a mosaic of sound that enveloped the beach house. Mike stood back for a moment, watching them. Shoulder to shoulder, these strangers were now a community, tied together in newfound friendship. But as the gathering expanded, he couldn't shake the feeling that the past was looming just outside their fragile bubble of connection. "Hey, is everything all right?" asked, concern threading her voice as she noticed his pensive expression. Mike hesitated. "Yeah, just thinking about how different things are now. I want you to be happy, Em." Her eyes softened and she stepped closer, reaching for his hand. "Dad, I promise we're creating something special here. Let go of what was. This is our chance." Her words struck him, resonating deep within. But letting go was harder than it sounded, especially when memories lingered in every detail of the house. The crooked picture frames, the old surfboards leaning against the wall, the shells collected on the shore. They told stories of laughter and lightness, love woven into their very fabric. As the breakfast crowd grew and cheers of "more pancakes" punctuated the air, he could feel celebration swirling around him, even as shadows danced at the edges of his heart. Watching Emily engage, seeing her lead with purpose, stirred something within him. He realized he had already begun shaping a new story with her, even if it felt like stepping into the dark. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and purples, Mike found Emily sitting on the porch steps, deep in thought. The waves whispered secrets in the background, a lullaby he once found solace in. "Dad," she began, turning to him, "what if we went even bigger? What if we turned this place into something that lasts beyond us?" A wave of inspiration coursed through him. "What do you mean?" "What if we turned it into a community center? For kids, families, all of it. We could host workshops, art classes, anything." The enthusiasm in her voice was infectious, and it was impossible not to smile. The vision was bold and thrilling, a dream that could become a legacy. But another thought crept into Mike's mind, a question lingering in the air. But what if? What if people don't support us? What if it takes everything we have? Struggling with doubts, would they truly find a way to secure their future here in the shadow of so much loss? As the ocean continued to crash and recede, Mike felt a tide of determination rising. Let's do it. Let's make this place a beacon. It's time we truly serve our community. The night wrapped around them like a cloak of possibilities, but with excitement and fear tightly coiled. As they stood together under the darkening sky, the thrill of a new venture mingled with the weight of the past. What would they encounter on this path ahead? Could their hopes carry them through the trials to come? The next morning brought a fresh sense of purpose, and the waves rolled in rhythmically, as if cheering on the bold plan Mike and Emily had forged. The sun beamed down, lighting up their path like a spotlight on a stage set for beginning anew. Mike stood in the kitchen, brewing coffee, when Emily bounced in, wide-eyed and full of dreams. "Dad, we need to make a list," she exclaimed, her energy practically crackling in the air. "A list of everything we need to do to bring the community center to life." Mike couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm, feeling his own worries start to recede. "All right, what do you have in mind?" She grabbed a notebook and flipped through the pages. "First, we need to reach out to local businesses for support, maybe ask them to sponsor some activities. Then we could look for volunteers who'd be interested in teaching classes." "Classes?" He raised his eyebrows, intrigued. "Like what?" "Art, music, cooking. Think about it. We could bring so many people together. Plus, have you ever seen how bored kids get during summer? This could change everything for them." The twinkle in her eyes ignited something in Mike. It was more than a community center. It was a lifeline for those seeking connection and joy, just like he had sought it in the past. As the day wore on, they ventured out to speak with neighbors, With each conversation, Mike felt something shift. People leaned in, smiling at the idea of a community center, captivated by the vision they painted together. The more they spoke, the more hope blossomed. But not all reactions were bright. At one point, an older man, Mr. Thompson, stood with arms crossed and a frown on his face, skeptical. "Seems like a lofty dream, kid. What makes you think you can pull this off?" Mike felt a wave of tension rise in his chest. "We're just passionate about it. We believe it can help our community." "Belief doesn't make it happen," Mr. Thompson shot back. "You'd need more than dreams. You'd need money, permits, manpower. A lot can go wrong." The words hung heavy in the humid air. Mike's heart sank, doubt creeping back in. What if they truly couldn't pull this off? As he glanced at Emily, she was undeterred, her fingers brushing the notebook like it was a treasure map filled with possibilities. "Sir," she stepped forward, "we know it's a big task, but if we don't try, then nothing will ever change. Don't you want better for the kids in this town?" Mr. Thompson paused, eyes softening slightly. "You're brave, all right, but you should know that bravery without a plan is just noise." Her determination shone through. It was almost contagious. Mike watched her push through doubt, a fire igniting around them. Perhaps they could turn this noise into something real. That evening, fueled by their discussions, Mike and Emily returned to the beach house, surrounded by remnants of their shared history. They sat on the porch steps, mapping out ideas and possibilities. Laughter echoed within as they scribbled down everything from pottery classes to beach cleanups. Every idea sparked flashes of excitement, each one shaping the foundation of something greater. Mike felt a lightness in his heart, unearthing dreams he hadn't realized were still there, waiting for air. "Let's get the word out," he suggested excitedly. "Social media, flyers, maybe even a community meeting." Emily bounced in her seat. "Yes, let's make it a big event. Live music, food stands. It will bring everyone together." As they plotted their next steps, the sky turned dark, stars peeking out one by one, twinkling like dreams waiting to unfold. Just as Mike began to feel that familiar weight lift, his phone buzzed beside him. A notification. He picked it up and froze. The news wasn't good. An upcoming storm was projected to hit the area hard in a few days. Anxiety clawed at him again, pushing the early burst of excitement deep into the shadows. "What's wrong?" Emily asked, noticing his expression change. "It's just," he hesitated, uncertainty coursing through him. "The storm, it could derail everything before we even begin." Emily took a breath, determination igniting in her eyes. "Then we prepare. We can't let fear win. We'll fight for this place and what it can do for others." Her confidence sent a jolt through him. But at that moment, he also realized their resolved plan might face harsher storms, both weather-related and personal. How far would they be willing to go to fight for their dream? As darkness settled in, the waves roared louder, a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. But even as fear whispered in his ear, Mike looked at Emily with her fierce spirit sparkling in the night and felt a glimmer of hope. Would the storm sweep away their dreams before they could even start? Or could it somehow strengthen their resolve to build something extraordinary? The next morning, the salty air was thick with tension. Mike stood on the porch, staring out at the churning sea. The storm was still a couple of days away, but it felt imminent, like a dark figure lurking at the edge of the horizon. He could almost hear it whispering doubts that rattled in his mind. Emily joined him, clutching her notebook with a fierce grip. "Dad," she said softly, "we can't let the storm scare us. We have to stay focused." Her voice was steady, just what he needed. He turned to her and nodded, summoning all the optimism he could muster. "Okay, let's tackle this. We need to plan our outreach for local businesses today. That's our first step. As the hours slipped away, they dove into creating a strategy. They made lists of potential sponsors and reached out to friends and family, generating excitement that echoed through their home. Neighbors popped by to share their own stories, many remembering a time when the town felt alive with activity. "I remember the summer concerts," Mrs. Garcia said, her eyes lighting up. "We'd gather with picnic baskets and enjoy music under the stars. It would really bring everyone together." Mike's heart swelled. Emily's vision was beginning to resonate, sparking a sense of nostalgia and hope within adults who felt disconnected from their community. But just as they were gaining traction, the phone rang. It was the town's planning department. Mike felt a pit form in his stomach when he answered. "Mr. Thompson is right," the voice on the other end said. "You'll need to file a bunch of permits before you can even think about organizing this community center. Just filling out the paperwork will take weeks, if not months, and there are fees involved." Mike allowed the weight of the news to settle on him like a heavy anchor. "I see." Hanging up, his shoulders sagged. The storm of permits loomed in his mind, overshadowing the light he had felt just moments earlier. "Dad," Emily noticed his change in demeanor. "What is it?" "Just a bit of a setback," he said, trying to keep his voice light. But she saw through his facade. "Tell me, I can handle it." Her determination struck a chord. In that moment, he knew he had to be honest. "They say we need permits for everything. This could take much longer than we expected." Emily frowned, but quickly composed herself. "So what? It's just another challenge. We can tackle it one step at a time. Think about how much we've already accomplished." He marveled at her perspective, her ability to see a path forward where he saw walls. "You're right. We can break it down. Let's focus on one permit at a time." "Exactly," she grinned. "First one'll be the easiest. Let's talk to the Parks Department. They might already be on board." With renewed excitement, they dug into research, kinking out the details of what they'd need. Mike felt a sense of unity with Emily, their shared laughter echoing through the house. Even through the uncertainty, he could feel their dream, their community's heart, pounding stronger. As they wrapped up their planning for the day, dark clouds began to roll in from the ocean. The winds picked up, howling like a warning. Mike glanced out at the horizon, creased with worry. "Maybe we should head to town and share all this good news before the storm really breaks," Emily suggested. His heart clenched with the thought of rushing outside into the brewing chaos. What if we don't make it back in time? Emily shrugged off his hesitation. What if we don't go? Then we miss the chance to inspire others. We have to trust. Mike looked deep into her unwavering eyes and felt the storm of fear inside him swirl anew. But he knew she was right. They couldn't let uncertainty defeat them now, not when they were finally making progress. They grabbed their jackets and set out, wind whipping around them, sending loose papers from his notebook dancing into the air. As they hurried down the street, he could see community members starting to gather. Some looked concerned, but others reached out to him, encouraging smiles gracing their faces. It felt like the heart of their town was ready to beat with excitement, even in the face of the incoming storm. And as they reached the community center's proposed location, a thunderclap rolled across the sky. "All right," Mike said, raising his voice above the roars of nature. "Let's make our voices heard. No storm is going to stop us now." But just then, a flash of lightning illuminated a familiar shadow in the distance. A figure standing alone and watching, his face as stormy as the clouds overhead. It was Mr. Thompson again. What did that look on his face mean? Did he hold answers they desperately needed, or further doubt that could dismantle everything they had built in the past few days? Suddenly, Mike felt uncertainty rushing back like the incoming tide. Would the storm inside the townsfolk be as fierce as the one in the sky? The storm clouds loomed overhead, as palpable as the tension in Mike's chest. He had fought to keep hope alive, but Mr. Thompson's gaze felt like an avalanche ready to crush everything they had built in a matter of days. Emily stood steadfast beside him, oblivious to the dark thoughts spiraling in his mind. "Mr. Thompson," she called, wading through the crowd gathering near the community center. Her voice rang out like a lighthouse beacon. Mike steadied himself, unwilling to let doubt surface. They needed every ounce of community support, especially now. The town's planning commissioner stepped forward, his frown merging with the shadows hanging above. "I'm surprised to see you both here in this weather," he said, his tone even but laced with something else. "Skepticism? Anger?" "Mr. Thompson, we're not afraid of the storm," Mike said, his voice rising above the wind, trying to carry the conviction he felt. "We have so many plans for the community center. We just want to discuss our first steps with the permits." "We already know the hurdles," Emily chimed in, her voice brimming with youthful determination. "We're not backing down. We believe this can bring everyone together again." Mr. Thompson looked at her, surprised by the fire sparkling in her eyes. "A good dream, but talk is cheap. You'll need more than optimism. You need support." A heavy silence lingered as he surveyed the crowd. For a moment, Mike's heart raced. What if they didn't have the support? But then, out of the crowd, Mrs. Garcia stepped forward, clutching her own memories of the summer concerts. "I remember how that community center used to feel like home to us all. I want that back." One by one, voices rose around them. Stories spilled forth, of families, of gatherings, of laughter under starlit skies. "Yes, we can't let our town fade away," called Mr. Davidson, whose grandfather had pioneered the center decades ago. Mike felt the air shift, each voice lifting him like a gust pushing against an anchor. Together, they were weaving a tapestry of connection, every thread a thread of memory tied to a shared hope. Mr. Thompson's demeanor softened. "You'll need more than voices in the wind. You need an organized plan, a vision that can't be dismissed. If you're truly committed, then bring me a proposal. Show me the community behind you." "What about our first permit?" Mike asked, desperation creeping into his voice. "Start bare. Make it compelling. I'll consider it if I see promise." The shadows on Mr. Thompson's face lessened, but the clouds remained heavy and rolling in the distance. "All right," Emily said, determination building in her voice. "Then let's get to work. Who's with us?" The crowd erupted into a chorus of affirmative shouts. Ideas bounced like a ball tossed between friends. The world around them faded until it was just the powerful sound of their voices, each one a promise that they would stand united against any storm. Mike's heart swelled as he interconnected with Emily's spirit. As loud as the crashing waves, they would find a way. But the winds grew fiercer, pulling at their clothes, nearly drowning out their voices. As more people joined them, Mike glanced at the sky, remembering the danger lurking above. "Let's break it into smaller steps," he suggested, hoping to contain the chaos. "If we gather our proposals and gain more support, we can." A sudden crash of thunder sliced through the air. The storm was creeping closer, its edges sharp and menacing. "Then let's meet again tomorrow," shouted Mrs. Garcia, her voice rising above the tumult. "Every one of us needs to show up. Together we can." But just then, another flash of lightning illuminated Mr. Thompson, casting him back in shadow. "People will need more than just your good intentions. You'll need to prove this to the town, to me. If this is going to happen, it's going to take everything you have." His words hung in the air, echoing like the thunder above. A sense of dread followed them, but it was joined now by something else, gravity. Mike understood that what they were attempting was about to be tested. As the first raindrops began to fall, he felt Emily's hand squeeze his. "We've got this, right?" she whispered, her voice piercing through the noise. "Yes," he replied, realizing the urgency radiating from her. "We need to believe, and I will make sure everyone stands with us." A sudden gust of wind whipped past, scattering papers, carrying away their plans with it. "Let's get to work," Mike shouted, his voice firm, heart racing with the challenge that lay ahead. And as they dashed back through the downpour, the last thought in his mind was whether Mr. Compson's looming gaze would become their greatest ally or their fatal setback. Rain drenched the streets, but the world outside blurred into the background as Mike and Emily huddled over their kitchen table, plans spread out like the map of a small kingdom. The night was alive with the sound of rain pounding against the windows. Lightning danced outside, setting the room aglow for fleeting moments before plunging it back into darkness. "Do we really think we can do this?" Mike asked, tracing his finger along the edge of the proposal. Doubt crept in again, like fog rolling in from the ocean. Emily looked up, her expression fierce. "We can't afford to doubt now. We have their stories. We have the memories. This means too much to too many." She tapped the papers. "This is more than just a project. It's a lifeline for our town." "Yeah, but Mr. Thompson's not going to take just words. We need facts, figures, and a way to show the impact. Or he'll just dismiss us. Again." Emily leaned back, her brow furrowed. "Then we dig deeper. Tonight, let's gather everything we can find. The history, testimonies, the numbers from past events. We need to paint a picture." Mike felt a flicker of optimism, a small flame battling against the wind. "You're right. We cannot just declare the importance. We have to prove it." They launched into a flurry of activity, fueled by the urgency of their mission. Each fact they unearthed was like a stepping stone, lifting them closer to a solid foundation. Hours slipped by, punctuated only by the sound of rain, occasional laughter, and their determined voices. As midnight approached, exhaustion washed over them. The kitchen table was now a chaotic landscape, strewn with notes and old documents. Mike rubbed his eyes and glanced at Emily, who was scribbling her thoughts furiously. "What time is it?" "Almost 12, she replied, her voice strained from focus. "We should take a break. There's only so much coffee one can drink." The rain began to taper off, and Emily paused to look out the window. "What if we're missing something bigger?" Mike raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "We're focusing on all these reasons why the center should be rebuilt, but maybe we should also think about what it represents. Community, togetherness, reinvention." "What do you mean?" "Let's add a personal touch. We can tell the stories of people whose lives changed there. Mrs. Garcia, for example. Remember how she talked about the concerts? What if we capture these emotional testimonies and include them?" Mike felt the weight of her words settle on him. That could be the spark to bring their project to life. "You're onto something, Em. If we can make them feel something, Mr. Thompson will have no choice but to take us seriously." And just like that, the room transformed. Dimmer now, the shadows flickering with hope. They began to form a new strategy, weaving personal stories into their proposal, connecting facts with emotions, and igniting their vision with passionate urgency. As the storm finally began to quiet outside, Mike glanced at the notes, feeling both energized and overwhelmed. "All right," he said, his heart racing again with belief. "Let's finalize the draft and bring it to the heart of the community. But we need to gather those testimonials first." Emily nodded vigorously, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "We'll talk to everyone. The heart of their stories is what this town deserves." "Tomorrow we start by reaching out," Mike said, determination surging through him. "We'll organize a meeting. We'll show Mr. Thompson the strength of our community, together." Just then, there was a loud knock on the door, echoing through their small sanctuary. Who could that be? Mike wondered, his heart racing anew, unsure if it was the storm that made him anxious or the possibilities that lay ahead. Emily shot him a curious glance. "Let's find out." As they moved toward the door, Mike couldn't shake the sense that this could change everything, a turning point in the critical race for support. He drew in a breath, pushing aside uncertainty, ready to face whatever awaited them on the other side. But when he swung the door open, he found not just a face, but a messenger with news that would shake their plans to the core. Mike opened a door, instinctively stepping back. Standing there was a woman, drenched from head to toe, her dark hair plastered to her face. It took him a moment to recognize her as Mrs. Jenkins, the beloved elderly widow from down the street. "Mrs. Jenkins?" he exclaimed, concern flooding his voice. "What are you doing out in this weather?" Despite her soaked appearance, she managed a shaky smile. "I'm so sorry to intrude, dear. I had to come. It's urgent." Emily joined Mike at the door, her brow creased in concern. "What's wrong?" Mrs. Jenkins hesitated, taking a deep breath, her voice trembling. "It's about the community center. It's in trouble, and I believe you two need to know." Mike and Emily exchanged a glance, the air thickening with apprehension. "Trouble? What do you mean?" Mike asked, stepping aside to let her in. As she stepped into their warm kitchen, shaking off syllables of rainwater, Mike led her to the table littered with papers. The chaos of their planning seemed insignificant now. Mrs. Jenkins settled into a chair, her hands wringing together. "I just heard from Mr. Thompson's office. The town council is meeting tomorrow to discuss the center's fate, deciding whether to demolish it completely. They think it's too old, too broken." Her voice faltered, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "They believe it's beyond saving." The words landed like a punch, and a chill ran down Mike's spine. "But we have a proposal, Mrs. Jenkins. We were just—" "I know, but they think they have everything figured out already," she cut in, swallowing hard. "They don't want to hear from people like us. It doesn't fit their agenda." Emily's face paled. "We need to present tomorrow. We have to tell them about the stories, the importance of the center." Mrs. Jenkins nodded, her expression fierce despite the sorrow. "If you want people to listen, you have to rally them. Bring the heart of this town together. Show them what they stand to lose." Determination ignited in Mike's chest. "You're right. We can't wait until the meeting. We have to act fast." "But how?" Emily asked, already scribbling notes. "We need to gather everyone we can tonight." "Exactly," Mike said, his voice rising with excitement. "We can call an emergency meeting right now. Social media, flyers, anything we can do to spread the word." The storm outside had settled to a light drizzle, but inside it felt like a wildfire ignited. They huddled together, brainstorming ways to notify their neighbors, quickly mapping out a strategy that would bring people together. This was more than just a building. It was about their community's identity. As they worked, Mrs. Jenkins shared touching stories about how the center had affected her life. Each tale was a thread, weaving them closer to the heart of the matter. They knew they had to make everyone feel the urgency. "Let's meet at the park at 8, Mike decided, pulling his phone from his pocket. "We'll share our stories and tell everyone what's at stake." Emily nodded, a spark of hope igniting within her. "We need to make them understand how much the center means, not just to us, but to everyone in this town. This is an opportunity to speak out together." Just then, their phones buzzed simultaneously, notifications lighting up the screens. Scrolling quickly, they saw an unexpected message from a local news station. "Breaking! Community center facing possible demolition." Mike's heart raced. "They're already covering it. We've got to get ahead of this." Mrs. Jenkins reached out, her voice suddenly softer. "Just remind everyone that sometimes it takes a storm to discover how strong we can be together. I believe in you both." As they gathered their thoughts and prepared to reach out, the shadows in their kitchen flickered with both fear and newfound resolve. Would it be enough to save their cherished community center? With the clock ticking, Mike and Emily felt the weight of their town resting on their shoulders. But as they planned under the fading glow of the kitchen light, one question loomed larger than the storm outside. Would the community rise up as one, or would they watch their history fade away? The following morning dawned gray and heavy, a stillness settling over the coastal town. Mike stood in the kitchen, glancing at the clock, its hands ticking down the moments until their community would gather at the park. The rain from the night before had washed away more than just the dust. It cleared a path for possibility. Emily bounced in, her hair still damp, but her spirit radiant. "Remember, Dad, we've got to stay focused. Everyone's counting on our passion." "Right," he replied, swallowing the lump of uncertainty in his throat. "We just need a solid plan." Armed with flyers and their heartfelt proposal, they set out, the air thick with nervous energy. The park, normally a playground of laughter, was a sea of worried faces as neighbors began to trickle in. As the crowd grew, Mike felt pride swell within him. Here were the people he had worked alongside, who had watched Emily grow up, faces filled with hope and concern. Emily stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. As some of you may know, our beloved community center is at risk of being demolished. It's not just a building, it holds our memories, a slice of who we are. We need to save it for future generations." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Mike's heart raced with anticipation. He stepped up beside her. "Together, we can show the town council what this center means to us. We're asking for your support, for your stories. Let's make them hear us." As people began to share their experiences, each story contributed to an ever-growing tapestry of memories. Kids learning to swim, families coming together for events, the nice old lady from down the street teaching classes, images of joy shaping their community stitched into words. "Do you all remember the 4th of July picnic?" Mr. Davidson called out. "Those fireworks wouldn't be the same without the lawn filled with families." One after another, voices echoed through the park, each layered with love and nostalgia. It was more than they had hoped for. It was the awakening of a community rising together. With each passionate plea, Mike felt the shadows of doubt retreat further and further into the corners of his mind. Emily stood at the center, shining with determination, reaching the hearts of everyone gathered. "Now," she declared, holding up a paper with their proposal, "let's take this energy and turn it into action. We're going to deliver our proposals to the city council tomorrow, but we need every one of your names, every story told to show we're serious." A roar of agreement filled the air, and people dug deep, some handing out pens, others holding on to each word as if it were a lifeline. Laughter mingled with tears, strength ignited from shared vulnerability, and a spark of hope ignited these lasting connections. But even amidst the excitement, the storm clouds rumbled, the meeting at the council loomed, and Mike's heart remained heavy with fear of their proposal being dismissed. As the sun dipped low, casting golden rays through the clouds, Emily caught his eye. He could see in her determination a glimpse of the little girl she once was. She had transformed through this journey into an inspiring leader, breathing life into something so important. Later, they sat side by side on their porch, exhaustion wrapping around them like a heavy blanket. "Did we really just do that?" Emily whispered, disbelief lacing her words. "Yes," Mike replied, the weight of pride lifting off his shoulders. "You were incredible, Em. You turned their memories into fuel for our fight." Emily's eyes glowed with excitement. "And you were right beside me. This is our family legacy now. We're building it from the ground up." The evening turned still. Each gentle wave crashing against the shore echoed their resolve. They had stood together, their community united in purpose and strength. Tomorrow would, for better or worse, define their journey, but somehow, with each story shared today, they felt a swell of confidence. As darkness enveloped the beach house, Mike turned to Emily, capturing her gaze. "Whatever happens, we gave it everything. You taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the determination to forge ahead despite it." She smiled softly, the joy in her eyes a lighthouse guiding him home. "Together, we'll make sure our dreams don't slip away." Morning arrived with a good mix of hope and anxiety. As they stepped into the town hall, Mike could feel the palpable energy in the air. Neighbors stood united, the signs of support surrounding them, building a fortress of resilience. The meeting commenced. A barrage of questions flew, but Emily led them confidently, speaking with conviction, sharing their heartfelt proposal as the townspeople rallied behind her. Finally, Mr. Thompson stood, skepticism softening slightly in his thoughtful frown. This is a lot to take in, and while I have my reservations, the passion is evident. As the room held its breath, Mike felt a quiet resolve settle over him. It wasn't just about saving a building. It was a testament to community, love, and legacy. It was an invitation for growth and connection. Let's commit to review this proposal. If you can show measurable support, then we can consider the steps moving forward. Cheers erupted in the hall, relief washing through the crowd, and tears of joy sprang forth in Emily's eyes. Standing resilient together, they had transformed fear into hope, pride into connection. Underneath the tumultuous tides of life, they had forged stronger bonds, begun shaping a legacy, because family isn't just about blood, it's about community coming together for a shared purpose. And as Mike stood shoulder to shoulder with Emily, he understood. It was never about a beach house. It was about the heart of their town, now beating loud and proud, finally ready to rise against any storm. Now, let's share this journey of transformation and let our stories inspire others. You need to subscribe now to our channel to follow the next exclusive tales of resilience. Leave a like now to tell algorithm that these stories matter. Drop a comment below sharing your reactions and feelings about this ending. And for goodness sake, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support for this community.